Okay, today we're making one of my top 5 desserts of all time, an authentic, rich, creamy tiramisu with espresso soaked ladyfingers, a smooth, creamy mascarpone cream, and a generous coating of cocoa on the top. This recipe is going to take your tiramisu game to the next level. So to start off, we're going to prepare our espresso. So for this recipe, you're going to need 360 grams or 1.5 cups of strong espresso or any type of strong coffee. And you can either use a machine for this or use instant espresso powder, which is what I'm using today. I like the coffee flavor to really come through in my tiramisu, so I use 4.5 tablespoons of instant espresso powder in 360 grams or 1.5 cups of hot water. Okay, so once this coffee is ready, you just want to pop it aside to cool for now. And next we're going to prepare our mascarpone cream. So first we're going to prepare our egg yolks. Now this recipe uses a total of 4 egg yolks and 4 egg whites, and they are all raw. So if you live in a country where it's not quite advised to eat raw eggs, then you want to make sure that you purchase pasteurized eggs because they're treated in a way which just makes them safe to eat raw. So to a large bowl, you want to add in your 4 egg yolks and 50 grams or 1/4 cup of white granulated sugar. And then you just want to whip that together for about 5 minutes until the egg yolks are thick and pale. You really want to make sure that you take the time to whip the egg yolks properly, otherwise your cream won't be thick enough and your tiramisu won't set properly in the end. So once you're done, you should have this kind of consistency. Now to the egg yolks, you're going to add in 450 grams or 2 cups of cold mascarpone, which is 16 ounces, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I forgot to add it in at the beginning, so I added in later on, about halfway through. And then you just want to mix that together on a medium speed for about 3 minutes or until the mixture thickens. Again, you want to take your time with this and don't rush it, because if the mixture is too runny, your tiramisu isn't going to set properly. And you also just want to be careful not to over whip it though, because over whipping can cause the mascarpone to curdle. So 3 minutes later, I have this beautiful thick cream that has this kind of consistency. It's still soft but holds its shape relatively well. You just don't want it to be too liquidy or soupy. Now you just want to get any of the egg mixture off of your attachments, and you want to make sure that you wash them very thoroughly before moving on to the next step, which is whipping our egg whites. And the reason for this is because if there's any fat residue on your attachments or in the bowl that you're mixing your egg whites in, then your egg whites are not going to whip up properly. So next you just want to add your 4 egg whites to a medium-sized bowl and whip for about 30 seconds on a medium-high speed until they're frothy. And then you want to gradually add in 100 grams or 1/2 cup of white granulated sugar. And then you just want to continue to whip on a medium-high speed until you reach stiff peaks. This should take about 5 minutes or so, but the time may vary depending on the size and strength of your mixer. Now just be careful not to over whip them though, otherwise they'll start to split and curdle, which we don't want. So once you have beautiful stiff peaks like this, then your egg whites are ready. Now to finish off the cream, you want to add in half of the egg whites to the egg yolk mixture and gently fold that in with a spatula until just combined. Be gentle here because you don't want to push out too many of the air bubbles. And then once that's done, add in the remaining egg whites and again gently fold until just combined and smooth. You don't want to overmix because the more you mix, the runnier the cream is going to become. Now that is looking good. You should have this kind of consistency, and now we are ready to assemble our tiramisu. So for assembling, you're going to need a 9 by 13 inch dish. It's okay if it's, kind of slightly bigger or slightly smaller. You just want to make sure that it's not too big, otherwise you're not going to have enough cream. Now you're also going to need 40 ladyfingers. You may need a few more or a few less, depending on the size of your dish. And you can usually just find these at the supermarket, and they're essentially just like a sponge cookie with a really dry, crisp texture, which just makes them perfect for soaking up liquid without getting too soggy. And then we have our coffee from earlier, which has cooled down now. It's okay if your coffee is still kind of ever so slightly warm to the touch, but you just want to make sure that it's not hot. And then lastly, our mascarpone cream. So to start assembling, you want to grab a ladyfinger and very quickly dip both sides in the coffee. This should be a really quick dip, like no longer than 2 seconds, because the ladyfingers absorb liquid very quickly. And if you leave them in the coffee for too long, they're just going to become soggy and break. And then you just want to lay it on the bottom of your dish and then just continue to do this until the bottom of the dish is full. You may need to break some of the ladyfingers if you have kind of any small corners that you need to fill, and you want to place them close together, so don't leave any gaps between the ladyfingers. Now once the first layer of ladyfingers is done, then next you want to spread out half of the mascarpone cream over the top. Make sure that you spread it out right to the edges and spread it out as evenly as you can. I like to really smooth it out with my offset spatula, but you know, a normal spatula will do the trick as well. Next, you want to repeat the first step of quickly soaking the ladyfingers in the espresso and then placing them on top of the cream. Remember to dip the ladyfingers on each side very quickly, no longer than 1 second on each side, and try not to leave any gaps between the ladyfingers. Now to finish off, the rest of the mascarpone cream goes on top. You want to try and spread it out as evenly as you can and make sure that the top is completely covered in the cream. Okay, now that is our tiramisu mostly done, and now you just want to cover the top tightly with some cling wrap so that the cling wrap isn't touching the cream. And now is the absolute hardest part. You cannot eat this right away. It needs to go in the fridge for at least 6 hours, or ideally overnight, which is what I'm going to be doing. So my tiramisu has been chilling in the fridge overnight. I'm now going to carefully remove the cling wrap, and then to finish off, you want to dust a generous layer of cocoa powder on the top. You want to use an unsweetened natural cocoa powder, and I use a fine mesh sieve to do this. You want to use enough cocoa powder that you can't see any of the cream on the top, so you're going to need about 2 tablespoons or so. Once I'm done, I like to just clean up the edges just to make it all look nice and presentable. And then that is my tiramisu all done and ready to serve. This tiramisu is honestly so rich and creamy, and you can really taste the coffee coming through. The coffee-soaked ladyfingers are so nice and soft without being soggy, and the mascarpone cream is just so luxurious and just melts in your mouth. It's so good. Tiramisu is one of my biggest weaknesses. It's one of my absolute favorite desserts of all time. And I promise you this recipe will not disappoint. It is so creamy and rich, and that mascarpone cream is just like so wonderfully light but still so creamy. It's so good. So that is it for today, guys. If you do decide to give this insanely delicious tiramisu a go, then please do leave a review on my blog. It really helps my content out, and I absolutely love hearing from you guys. I'll see you in the next video.